Hello and welcome to another Dragonstorm Studios video. And today we're going to be drawing Dylan O'Brien. Dylan O'Brien is the star of such movies as Maze Runner and American Assassin, and such TV shows as Teen Wolf. And I know him best from the James Dashner interpretation of Maze Runner. So we're going to draw him today. You can see I've already got my circle, which I started off with. I've got my axis line. I've already worked out some of the basic lines of the face in terms of, I guess, the head, and blocked out some areas for like dark shading, etc., and some details such as the zippers here and there. And this just gives me a good base to start with. So most of the pictures we work with are drawn face toward the camera, the viewer. But here we've got one where we've got what's called a 3/4 angle. And this is where you've got the face being slightly pitched to one side or another. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to look for where the edge of the eye is compared to the edge of the face. So what I'm going to be doing, I'm going to be kind of working out based on this line that I've drawn, which shows the angle of the eyes, just about where that eye would end. And if this is the axis line, so his nose would be here coming out, and you've got a slight curve to that nose, then the eye would start right about here, is where the tear duct is. So I can already start with this line just coming up, slight curve. The highest points right about here and then back down again. So we can start with that top part of the eye. And then the bottom part, again, being at an angle, kind of scoots out a little bit here, and then like almost like a sideways teardrop. You've got this widening down here coming out. So we can begin with that eye there. The eyebrow is just above the eye. He's got a bit of a frown going on there. And if I just measure that angle, kind of comes up like this, very, very close to the eye itself, but then reaching this arch. That's a little too high there. There we go. And it kind of reaches where the little bump there in the eyebrow is. So you can see it goes from maybe a little bit skinnier here to a bit wider right there. All right, so I've tried to do some of the tedious measurements off camera just to save some time. But you can see here how I've got some points laid out on the page. I've kind of measured out where the two tear ducts line up, where this end of the eye lines out compared to the ala, which is the nose wing over here. Just like measuring some angles out. Also, the nostrils look very kind of pig-like right now and not very impressive, but again, the shading will make such a big difference in the picture as we've seen in previous videos. So the eye over here comes up at a fairly stiff 45-degree angle, and then it wants to reach this point almost like a children's slide. It comes right down like a slalom in skiing, and down again. And on this side it comes up a bit to the right, a bit actually more of a straight line to the right, and then just curves a little bit. He's got this intense, not squinting, but intense kind of look to him. And I want to try and reach with this bottom line, this line I've laid out, is to where the bottom of the eyes line up. So I'm going to go a little lower than that. There we go. And I'm just going to smooth that out. It looks a little bit stiff. And we've got tear duct, which is really dark. So some great shadows we're going to be putting into this picture here. And then the eye itself, you see a little, almost like a crescent moon sort of shape of white here. And then we have the eye itself coming in. So again, sometimes art has to look worse for it looks better. And it does reach the bottom of that eye. There we go. We'll put the eyelid in there as well, and it comes right out, overlapping. All right, definitely getting a Mark Wahlberg sort of vibe at the moment. So looking for, again, those angles, his other eyebrows about here, and it comes up, again, fairly close to the eye. He's got that frown going on there, and then kind of tapering out a little bit toward the side. Again, skinnier, closer to the middle. And in this case, again, everyone's a little bit different. Here, Mr. O'Brien's eyebrow kind of does get a bit wider here over to the right as we push off. And it comes fairly far out here. Just making sure I'm not sticking my face in your view here. Okay, and the eyebrows make such a big difference in the picture. It's incredible what a difference they make. It's almost like those pictures you might have seen on Facebook or other social media where they get rid of the eyebrows off celebrities and they look so odd. And with the shading on the nose there, it's starting to look a bit more realistic. It's amazing actually what a difference the shading on the nose does toward making it look more 3D and less flat, less pig-like like it was before. Top lip, normally it's darker than the bottom lip, but because the light's shining just at that right kind of angle, the top lip only really gets dark about here on the left, whereas all of the rest here is quite light. So I'm just going to go over that. There's the Cupid's bow, that little curvy bit on top, and then all of this is going to be darker here. And then we're going to have the lower lip, and it's going to come down like this. And again, I could even just a minute or two ago, probably video time, it was looking pretty bad, but it makes a big difference just having the light and dark going in there as well. So I'm actually liking how it's looking at the moment. I'm a little bit surprised. I was a bit worried, I'm not going to lie, at one point there, but it's coming along. And you definitely don't want to overemphasize the lips. A bit darker right below the mouth, and then a bit lighter toward the bottom here. Again, because the light's coming from this direction, as we saw here in the top lip, it's going to be lighter just here, like a little bit of a reflection on the bottom lip, just showing up a little bit there, and then darker here onto the side. And we're coming along. He's got a little bit of a scar or a mark or something over here, and then he's got that sort of classic rounded chin. You got some darkness up here, and we'll put some stubble in there also just to set that off a little bit. All right, heavily zoomed in for the eyes now. Because they are dark eyes, you need to be a little careful with the pressure putting down. It's going to be darkest on top, where the eyelid's casting a shadow on the eye itself. And then we're going to slowly work around our reflection marks here to create the pupil, which is the darkest part of the eye. And then the iris, being brown, it's dark, but not as dark as the pupil or the outline there. So again, really careful not to go too dark and just being aware of where your reflections are. That's why I put them in ahead of time, especially if you have someone with dark eyes, because this is where a mistake fixing it is going to be really difficult, because the eraser can only get so much erased in such a small space. But there we go. We already see looking pretty good. I might give it a second layer once I get an overall look at it, but same thing here on the right, just darkening in that pupil, darkening the top part of the eye, and then just slowly reducing that pressure, just easing up on the pencil. You can always go darker, it's really hard to go lighter. All right, working on the ear. It's quite dark here in the anti-helix, and then he's got that classic kind of inner ear shape here. I suspect this video is either going to be really long or very choppy, because it is already I'm on take number like 7 or 8 right now, and they're all short, but they do add up quite a bit. So it kind of gets wider at the top there, and we see some extra kind of shading in this structure of the inner ear. And it's all dark in here, except for a little showing there. But it's a bit of work. But again, everyone's a little bit different, and it's just observation. It's just noticing where things are, one thing, and compared to something else. And you'll get better with practice. Ears are tricky, and it's at this point where I am most frustrated and unsure and not feeling it, that I put the pencil away and I pull out the blending stomp. And this is where usually I go from, I hate this work, to, oh, look, it's the person I'm trying to draw. It turned out okay. So the blending stomp is when I'm taking all those blocks of tone that I had and I'm just working them in where I see transitions from light to dark. So on the forehead in particular, you've got an awful lot of those. And they start off being really kind of stark in your face, almost like too much. So I'll take the eraser and just on the edges, I'll just not erase, but I'll just kind of dab to make that transition a little less harsh. And I may have to go over it again, like I do down here. And it's kind of a back and forth. So you can really see what a difference the blending stomp makes just in terms of smoothing out the shading. I'm going to spend a bit more time working on the hair, the clothing, and the neck. But until then, I'm going to leave a copy of how the end result turns out right here. Hope you enjoyed that video and have yourselves a fantastic evening.